Imagine you are forced into an impossible corner. You must choose between protecting your family or upholding the strict letter of the law. How do you decide which path to take? That exact conflict plays out here, in the ancient stone ruins of the Athenian agora, right outside the local magistrate's office. Socrates is on his way into the court. He has to answer to charges of impiety, charges that, as history tells us, will ultimately lead to his execution. Outside, he runs into a younger citizen named Euthyphro, who has just arrived to file some highly controversial legal paperwork of his own. Euthyphro is here to swear out murder charges. The defendant is his own father, who he alleges is responsible for the death of a servant. This accidental meeting on the courthouse steps serves as a brutal stress test. It forces us to evaluate exactly what happens when two absolute moral rules violently collide. In ancient Athens, a murder carried a heavy civic weight called pollution. It was a religious contagion, and leaving it unpunished meant inviting the wrath of the gods onto the entire city. Euthyphro views prosecuting the crime as his universal duty. Taking action to cleanse this pollution is a strict religious requirement he cannot ignore. But weighing against that is his relational duty. The cultural expectation of filial piety meant a son owed his father unwavering loyalty, deference, and protection. Prosecuting a murderer appeases the gods, but attacking your own father in open court might easily enrage them just as much. Euthyphro isn't worried. He tells Socrates he possesses esoteric, specialized knowledge about exactly what the gods desire, making him immune to the paradox. Socrates immediately wants to learn this foolproof standard. If Euthyphro really knows the exact definition of piety, Socrates can use that framework to defend his own life in court. This scorecard shows the exact friction Euthyphro is trying to navigate. He is caught perfectly between these two competing obligations. Yet Euthyphro feels completely justified in tearing his family apart, entirely because he believes his moral standard is absolute and infallible. This flowchart breaks down the options facing anyone in Euthyphro's position. It all starts with a single inciting incident. A murder occurs. The first logical pathway is strict adherence to the law. You prosecute your father. The positive outcome here is clear. You eradicate the civic pollution and fulfill your universal legal obligations. The negative trade-off is severe. You completely sever familial trust, committing the equally terrible sin of filial impiety. The alternative pathway prioritizes relational loyalty over objective justice. You bury the evidence and ignore the crime. The positive outcome of ignoring the crime is that you preserve the family hierarchy. The father-son relationship remains intact, but the societal trade-off is massive. You leave yourself spiritually polluted, you risk the wrath of the gods, and you fail the wider society that relies on the law. Both paths carry catastrophic trade-offs. If you are going to select either route, your logical justification for doing so has to be completely unbreakable. Euthyphro attempts to justify his choice by proposing a simple definition. His action is pious simply because the gods love it. Socrates pushes back. He needs a single, unambiguous model. He wants a standard he can use to determine exactly which acts are right without any contradictions. This circular logic loop illustrates the problem. It shows the difference between a secondary quality and the actual essence of an action, the core reason a choice is good in the first place. Euthyphro's definition fails because the gods loving something is a secondary reaction. It is not the essential standard that makes the action inherently right. If you don't define the essence of the standard, you first have to know exactly what the gods love before you can act. In an active, high-stakes crisis, that framework is useless. Socrates exposes the illusion. Euthyphro is committing to a trade-off that will destroy his family, and he is doing it based on circular, completely unproven reasoning. The dialogue hits a wall. Socrates presses Euthyphro one last time to clearly define justice in relation to the gods, hoping to save his own life with the answer. Euthyphro gets frustrated. Unable to define his own standard, He makes a quick excuse about having business elsewhere and literally walks away from the argument. Socrates is left completely disappointed. He has to go inside and face a death sentence without the knowledge he desperately sought. Plato intentionally leaves the reader without a clear answer. He forces us to take this ancient dilemma and apply it directly to our modern trade-offs. This quadrant maps your ethical leanings. In the bottom right is the relationalist. Prioritizing loyalty minimizes friction but compromises universal justice. Top left is the absolutist. Prioritizing universal rules achieves objective justice but inflicts catastrophic relational damage. This is the Euthyphro zone. Operating in the Euthyphro zone is highly dangerous. It requires you to actively alienate and damage the people closest to you. If you choose to execute this extreme trade-off, there is an absolute requirement. You must possess a rock-solid, unambiguous definition of your core values. Relying on secondary traits, gut feelings, or assumptions is not enough. Without a true foundation, your justification will collapse under scrutiny. Plato's warning holds up thousands of years later. Never make a drastic ethical trade-off in your own life unless you can clearly define the core essence of your moral standard.